Well, it's fairly obvious what our main stories are tonight. We could have picked any one of the papers, but we're going to go with the version on the Daily Mail, which is dominating most of the papers. It's the continued rise of variant O, variant 0, some would say, the 0 micron variant. I do feel sometimes they are just trolling us with that name, but 0 micron cases have jumped 50% in just 24 hours, which is pretty impressive, it has to be said. In terms of transmissibility, this one really is exponential, highly transmissible, no question. What is still far from clear, however, is just how lethal it is. Boris Johnson says one person has died with it. He was using that phraseology there that has made some people rather suspicious about the way the numbers are calculated even before 0 micron arrived on our shores. Some say it could be the new Delta, others say it's about as fatal as an after-dinner mint. Fair to say that the newspapers would like to maintain the highest possible level of national panic and hence dependency on, funnily enough, newspapers. Is that warranted? Or is COVID-19 doing exactly what we wanted and regressing to the mean and turning into a cold virus? What do you think, Leo?
Well, the data, interestingly, the Economist processed some of the early data from South Africa, and it shows that the severity for Omicron is much lower than it was for Delta, especially for older patients. I mean, it's slightly higher, so it stays level at about 30%, whereas Delta rose to around 85% in older patients.
Right.
And
85% fatality rate?
No, just severity. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head how they measured severity. And it was in hospitalised patients as well, so they're not looking at patients who don't present to, as far as I understand it, they're not looking at patients who don't present to hospital. Yeah. And there's some other good news in that it actually affects children more. So these little brats who've been avoiding all the pain of coronavirus, apart from not being able to play with their friends or have an education, they're now getting it in their neck, literally in their neck sometimes.
The ones who've been sitting in those chalk circles in the playground eating a sad sandwich all day long and not being able to, they're actually little incubators now, are they?
They're now actually suffering with some sniffles and some coughs.
Kids are the ideal place in which to create herd immunity, obviously, because they don't experience very much.
Yeah, exactly. And it does strike me with this. I mean, look, I've said many times that I'm not an epidemiologist. I don't know how this stuff works, but I do defer to the judgment of people who know. And from what I understand if you allow the viruses that are milder to run rampant throughout the population, then that is the best way to provide protection to absolutely everyone. And it strikes me that that's not really on the table for some reason. And I don't understand why that's not.
There seems to be a strange coalition among, newspapers. We all understand newspapers like to make your skin crawl. They always have. They want to make your flesh creep. That's how they sell. And they keep that. And also, there are certain people, like I would say Neil Ferguson, who feels his status is elevated at a time of national pandemic. I don't quite understand Boris Johnson going with this pact, though. I would always got him down as a sort of, brush it off, fuss and bother. We can.
Why is that then? I mean, we are on the level of speculation here, but why? How is it in anyone's interest to instill this level of fear in people for something?
It's obvious. I mean, Transparency International looked at all the COVID contracts that the government handed out and found that one in five of them were potentially corrupt, which probably means most of them are corrupt. Right. So government ministers like Owen Patterson with Randox, he's getting like hundreds of thousands of pounds in backhanders from Randox, and they're getting contracts from the government to do the PCR testing.
So on the other hand, to put the other perspectives forward, we don't know anything about the virus. It's still, even the coronavirus full stop, it's very early days, isn't it? So
it's not early days for a coronavirus full stop.
No, sure, but in terms of COVID-19, there's still a lack of scientific consensus about an awful lot of it. A lot of man-hours
have been put into it. I mean, it's new, but a huge number of scientific experts have been working on it.
But I suppose, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, but the idea that, when there's a new variant, there should be some sort of hesitancy about it before making huge...
48 hours, maybe even a week. Yeah. It's been out for a month now, I think, hasn't it, since it emerged in South Africa?
Yeah, and also, I assumed everybody, the sky's falling in, we've got Omicron. I assumed, thousands of people had been falling down in shopping centres up and down the country. Oh. And then I found out today that one person, the first person, has died with it.
With it as well, in the same way that quite possibly, as we know now, the way that they calculate these deaths. I mean, no disrespect to the individual concerned, it may very well be that they have been killed with it. I don't buy it, but equally, they can very easily have had a confluence of a number of comorbidities that have,
Sure, and I don't like to sort of undermine, the grief that people go through when they lose someone, even if it's someone who's very, very elderly who is likely to die in any case. That's absolutely true. There's a human cost to all of this. But I also sort of feel like living in fear. I worry about what it's doing to our our society.
Well, we have not normally allowed a single death during the winter to affect national policy, have we? That's generally speaking, or even but constantly, every winter, the NHS is teetering on the brink of despair.
Exactly.
Private Eye run these things, so they're going 48 hours to save the NHS has been going on longer than Eurovision.